The Tulsa Oilers are back on the ice, fresh off last year's playoff run and hungry for more. It's a hockey triple-header as the Oilers face the Idaho Steelheads Friday and Saturday at 7:05 and again on Sunday at 4:05. Sunday, stay after the game and skate with the players at the BOK Center. Tickets at TulsaOilers.com. That's TulsaOilers.com. Experience hard-hitting, glove-dropping, pulse-pounding, glass-rattling kind of thrill. Get your tickets now at TulsaOilers.com. This is your town, your team, your Tulsa Oilers hockey are back.
Zack Reynolds alongside Luke Hamilton here for this episode of the Pipeline Podcast, brought to you by OilFire Whiskey. The Oilers coming off a season-high 7 goals scored and a win against the Allen Americans this past Sunday, and coming up, hosting the league-leading Idaho Steelheads for 3 games here at the BOK Center Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. And before we get into, the showdown and the matchup, it's going to be a fun, interesting weekend because we're looking at 2 nonprofits, of course. On Friday, the American Heart Association coming out. We're giving away rally towels, encouraging people to wear red, against the Steelheads. And first year we're doing that, a Red Out the Rink game, and so that's obviously exciting. Not a specialty jersey night, but maybe something that'll become that in the future, or, just a great cause in general.
Yeah, it'll be a great opportunity to come on out and support a great cause. Just sort of talking with Susan from the American Heart Association, 350,000 Americans every year suffer some type of out-of-hospital, cardiac arrest, and you got to bring awareness to that. We get a chance to represent some of the greatest athletes in the entire world, right? And even they have to take care of themselves, and it's important for every individual. So Red Out the Rink with us on Friday against Idaho, and of course wear red of any kind for sure. And first 1,000 fans in the building will get an awesome rally towel as well to be a part of. That's going to kick off the homestand, and it's going to be an important event, not only on the ice for sure for the Oilers, who have got to get something rolling and prove something against the best team in the league right now, but also, of course, in the grand lobby and everything else going on with them.
Of course, a lot of people consider heart disease and heart problems to be the leading cause of medical deaths of Americans, so obviously a really important cause. If it isn't the direct cause, I know sometimes some people look at different things in that, but generally an underlying cause or a supplementary compounding condition that can result in issues. So great to be able to partner up with them. And then, of course, another cause very close to just about everybody. No one really goes unaffected by either of these things, and that's Pink of the Rink Night. Cancer awareness across the board. Started off as breast cancer awareness, hence the pink, but then also overall in general, a lot of the time cancer has been considered kind of a pink ribbon, depending on where you grow up, and it's another cause that is great and affects everyone. This one is a jersey auction. And, of course, this will be benefiting Joy in the cause we've worked with in the past. And something nice about this is that it's the first time we've had it since the COVID year, essentially the year before the COVID year, the 2019-20 season, where that season wrapped up early. Haven't had Pink in the Rink since then, and really, really happy to get going that again.
Yeah, I think it was January 24th, something like that, last time we had this against Kalamazoo on home ice. And it's great to be able to have this game back, not only to be able to again, bring some awareness to some causes outside of the game of hockey, but to get some pink in the building. We've got a sneak peek of the jerseys, and I think everybody will be excited to see those on social here real soon. And they're always a great jersey to be a part of. Make sure you go check out Join the Cause just as well in the grand lobby for that game. Saturdays, everybody that listens to this podcast, if you've been to some Saturday games, knows that those are big nights in the building, and those are energetic nights in the building. So seriously, bring your A game, because we'll talk a little bit about this Idaho team coming up, but this is an important start to the month of February as you play the league-leading Idaho Steelheads 6 straight games in a row, and the first 3 at home, but worry about number 1 on Friday night.
Yeah, that's a great point. They're coming in, of course, sitting top not only of the Mountain Division, but the entire league, and having a record-breaking year at some points. And they're going to be a tough team to handle, but something I look back to is all the way back to the 2015-16 season. Brabham Cup champion Missouri Mavericks, now the Kansas City Mavericks. The Oilers played them 13 times that year. The Oilers did not make the playoffs, just missed out at the last second, I believe, by a singular point to Quad City. But you look at that season series, the Oilers had a winning record, in percentage-wise at least, 6-5, 1-1. 9 out of the 13 games were one-goal games, and 4 of those went into overtime. And so it goes to show that sometimes a team that maybe isn't just behind a team in the standings, maybe their toughest opponent. In fact, I know that no team beat the Mavericks that year more than the Oilers did.
Yeah, it's an important number to look at. Look, you're going to struggle against some teams every year. You're going to find a way to have a hand on some other teams as well. You just got to make sure it's in the positive for at least one team, right? And who knows? As good as Idaho is, I mean, gosh, they look like they're on pace to be one of the greatest teams in the league's history for sure this year. But anybody can match up with anybody and find a way to have a better game. And so you look at the schedule for a team like Idaho, they haven't seen everybody in the division, including the Oilers here, consistently enough for us to get a full scope as to what they can do. It just might take the right matchup. And I see that in head coach Rob Murray's team coming off of a 7-3 win. Some confidence on the power play and some confidence in some new additions such as Tag Bertuzzi and company. And so you've got a different dynamic for sure. Let's go back to the year in which the Oilers won the Mountain Division. I mean, there was some struggles during that season. I think something along the lines of a double-digit losing streak,
an
11-game losing streak. And the Oilers haven't had that this year, but even if they were to have had that this year, still a chance to win the dang division at the end of the day. So you look back at the struggles in the 18-19 season of an 11-game losing streak, you think there's no chance to get the train back on track. Well, there certainly is, and I see the month of February as a big benchmark here upcoming as the Oilers need to grab some points, not only on home ice, but against Idaho upcoming.
Yeah, same year, 18-19, Stanley Cup. At this point of the year, St. Louis dead last in the Western Conference. Ended up getting into the playoffs, ended up winning the entire thing. And so it's just another factor. I saw someone ask, are we mathematically out of the playoffs? Not even close. In fact, I mean, in 2 weeks, you could be, I think, just a point off easily of second place, let alone being behind fourth place, right? You could be there in third and be within legitimate striking distance of second. Now, a lot of things have to happen in that scenario, but the easiest way to put things into perspective, I think, looking at the standings, is to go look at the percentage of points. And the Oilers are, struggling there still, but so are the Americans, so are the Rush, so are the Grizzlies. So there's all those factors to take into account with these teams and what's going on. And of course, you mentioned it, some new additions. At home we saw, a great performance, 7-3, one of the best. Maybe the best game this team has played since opening night.
Yeah, and it was a great turnaround. It was a good time to have that game, right? You look at the game just before a 6-0 loss, and there was a required response out of this team, and they met that requirement on that Sunday afternoon. The power play helped out a ton. 5-on-5 goals from guys like Michael Farron at the right time, hitting the net at the right spot, not missing your target, not missing the net there in those big moments. Those are big moments that help young players gain the confidence they need to not double clutch on chances like that ever again. And so I loved that goal from Michael Farron to make it 5-3 in that game, and eventually the empty netters from Tag Bertuzzi finished it off. And you're right. As far as the standings go, if you're new to the game and still trying to understand it, this team's 5 points out of a playoff spot. For baseball fans out there, that's 2.5 games out. You're a weekend out from being in a playoff spot if things go your way. And so you just have to, win 2 out of every 3, a few weeks in a row. You've got to find a way to string together 3-4 wins in a row, such as a team like Utah, who sits in that 4th spot in the division, in that final playoff spot. They're on a 4-game win streak right now.
And before that, they were 7th in the division. I believe it was 5 games ago they were 7th. Before this win streak, they were 6th. And that's a great way to look at it. And, you can easily get distracted by looking at the win column. And, you see the Oilers sitting there with 13 wins, and you compare it to everybody else. Well, as much as it could totally be a story the other way if the Oilers were able to win all these overtime losses they have this season. Is the 7 in overtime and then the 1 in the shootout. Then you can see the team in a playoff spot, but still getting those points in general and treading water at times are why this team is just a weekend out, despite it doesn't always feel great when you pick up a point and you sit that as a loss in your mind, and so there's all these losses that are there, but so many of them, just like this series against Missouri in 2015-16, 1-goal games, and that team just missed the playoffs by a singular point.
I'm telling you what, the Oilers lose some of these games in regulation. They might be way out of the playoffs. Mm-hmm. These overtime losses are tough to take, but at the end of the day, you're picking up points, and I'll tell you what, it goes a long way. You look at individuals on this Oilers team right now that are starting to pick up their pace at the right time, when you need them at most. Leading the team in assists right now is Max Golod, and that is well understated too often.
Yeah.
And I think he's a guy that we recognize the absence of on Friday and Saturday this past week in Allen, as when he's added into that lineup, he just changes the dynamic and the way plays are made. I think head coach Rob Murray really has something going with that line. He's got Tag Bertuzzi up the middle with Golod on the left side and Polston on the right side. Watch for that line this weekend to try to set an example. And I think head coach Rob Murray, not knowing exactly what he's doing per se, I can imagine that he's going to look at that line, take him off to the side personally and say, hey, you guys have big expectations coming into this weekend, and you can do it, and we're going to give you the ice time and the confidence to do it. So, watch for Golod to pick up his play. I think Tag Bertuzzi is going to benefit a lot from a player like Golod, as Bertuzzi comes into this team here right now onto the weekend with 13 goals himself, scoring 8 of those with Norfolk this year, and the only player for Norfolk this year to get called up, and that's a tough team to play for right now, unfortunately for themselves. And so you look to Tag Bertuzzi as that banner player coming out of that franchise, and now you have him in a lineup where maybe he has a little bit more confidence because he's playing for something now.
Exactly, and that trade, as difficult as it was, as head coach Rob Murray said, to make, it was something that his hands were kind of tied on. Jimmy Soper wanted to leave, and he was going to make a trade that he thought brought value in, and found a team in Norfolk who is looking probably a little bit toward next year. I think they are still mathematically in their playoff chance, but they certainly do not control their own destiny.
They're certainly making moves towards next year, which it's realistic and it's appropriate for them to do so. But you can take advantage of that right now, right? And head coach Rob Murray has done so. He's made a couple of deals with Norfolk already this year, as we remember Alex Palmerville heading that way. But getting Tag Bertuzzi and getting his goal scoring at the right time is going to be important for sure. I thought he should have had an even strength goal on Sunday. He just got robbed with a little bit of a stick check there in the low slot. I mean, this guy's going to give you a chance each game that's going to look like a goal, whether it hits the back of the net or not. And that's what you need. You need consistency from a lineup that hasn't quite been consistent enough. You look at Eddie Matsushima. When he goes a little bit cold, which is very, very rare this year, you need guys to help him out. And we got that on Sunday for sure. Matsushima's been picking up some points again. And the sky's the limit right now for this team. It is certainly a locker room situation more so than anything, in a sense of this locker room is going to believe in themselves more than anybody else is, and that's what you need out of a team right now in 7th.
Yeah, when you have a piece of Play-Doh that hasn't quite hardened yet, right, and you can still work it around a bit, then you're always alive if you have to get it through a certain size hole. And that's kind of the analogy I would use for this right now is if you didn't make those moves, that Play-Doh kind of hardens, and now you're kind of stuck behind the 8 ball.
You've got the flexibility, right? You've got the moldability. There are adjustments that can be made in individuals' games, in individuals' mindsets, and this team's mindset altogether that will result in something that's worth fighting for right now, and it's a team just 2.5 games out of playoffs. So, again, I know the fans are looking at this schedule upcoming and they're thinking, oh boy, here comes Idaho. But hey, that locker room saying, here comes Idaho. Yeah. We get a chance to play this team here this week and send a message that not only, if we happen to make a playoff spot, it might be 4th place and it might be Idaho in the first round. So here's your chance to almost play a 7-game series against them. Yeah. Kind of get a feel as to what it's like and see if you can eliminate them here in this 6-game series.
And you mentioned it, right? There's guys that have been producing this year that have gone a little quiet in the goals department, especially here as of late. law of averages says that might bust open here. If you look at a guy like Eddie Matsushima, who's had a fantastic career specifically against the Steelheads, throughout the years. I mean, he's scored an overtime game winner goal against them not once but twice in his career. And then, take a look at Tyler Paulson. Tyler Paulson has the added benefit of playing with Max Golod and Bertuzzi potentially, and with those two players, maybe finding the back of the net with the consistency he did earlier. Not that he's been an inconsistent player, and you can say the same about Matsushima because they bring that heavy energy we talk about all the time in that 200-foot game, but it's always nice to get rewarded with the Geno in the column.
Yeah, it is. And, we talk about affiliated help too, right? I mean, Dallas has done a great job of being able to put guys down in Idaho to not only get the ice time they need, but to produce. And, even guys that aren't affiliated with, Dallas necessarily for Idaho. I mean, you look at longtime player A.J. White for this team just as well. And, he's fantastic this year as always. 32 points. 200-foot player, and he's got 32 points in 40 games this year. Domowski, 44 points in 40 games. You look at his numbers in South Carolina, not long ago. He's a point-per-game player, if not more, for sure. And so he's going to get his points this week. Let's be honest.
Yeah.
He finds a way to get them. And,
he always does.
And if you can just hold him off maybe one extra point or so, it could be the difference in a game at the end of the day. Affiliated help matters, and that's why the guy I circle on my sheet this week is a guy like Blake McLaughlin, who put up 4 points in the victory on Sunday. That's the most points anybody's put up in one game for the Oilers this year. He's blossoming at the right time, and I think it's because he's finding a role under head coach Rob Murray here that's finally fitting his game. One adjustment head coach Rob Murray's made with his game: play a straight line game. And he's finally doing that, and he's realizing, hey, I've got the speed to beat guys to the outside. I look at guys like Zack too. If he plays that style of game, these guys are going to be very effective in the offensive zone against Idaho, and Idaho's going to have to figure that out.
Yeah, and you look at a guy like Blake McLaughlin, and if he plays like he did on Saturday, you're not trying to disparage, right? Because really no one had a good game, if we're being honest, on the Saturday in the 6-0 loss. Every game against Idaho, you probably don't have much of a chance to come away with a ton of points. If he plays even somewhere in between Saturday and Sunday every game, then you have a real chance to gain a lot of points, and I think that's something to keep in mind. And also, we've seen the power play come alive here a little bit, and that makes it, with Tag Bertuzzi coming in, a guy that doesn't just directly affect you by scoring more goals, but by helping out your power play in general. We wouldn't be able to have seen the McLaughlin to Sheriff play without the penalty, or the power play, being structured the way it was and being disciplined like we talked about on the broadcast if Bertuzzi wasn't available there at the bumper.
Yeah, and it's a new system, right? I mean, it's pretty obvious. There's a lot more passing on this power play, and it's effective passing, too. You've got a little bit more of a floating bumper in a player like Tag Bertuzzi that's not going to necessarily camp down low. He loves to sort of go with the flow up the middle. He can get himself in position in the high slot, in the middle of the slot, or even in the low slot. And so that constantly forces that box on the penalty kill to have to move with the flow of Tag Bertuzzi. They can't allow him to soak up a spot where he can score. Example one is the game on Friday night in the overtime loss 5-4 against Allen. Tag Bertuzzi scored a goal on his first 3 shots as an Oiler. The first from the high slot getting space, the second from the low slot getting space, and the third, just shoot it from the point. If he can get a stick on it, he can score a goal. And so Tag Bertuzzi, no matter what he's doing as a bumper there, whether he's getting the puck or not, is affecting the play. When he's floating to the middle, what does that open up? It opens up Blake McLaughlin to get a feed across to Dante Sheriff like we saw on Sunday for a goal backdoor. So he affects a lot of the way this power play looks now, and I think it's going to allow for a lot more. Let's just start off with saying shots on goal and effective shots on goal, and it's going to lead to a lot more in the net.
And Bertuzzi, wears 72, came from the Norfolk Admirals. And you look at Riley Lindgren, not this season, but played Norfolk at the end of last year, was playing that bumper wearing 72. And we heard head coach Rob Murray talk about in the pregame on Sunday how kind of became complacent as the bumper. And it really wasn't fighting toward the front of the net to deflect those shots. Well, we saw how much of a difference it made on the Friday game against the Americans when both Boudria, who finished with 3 points, of which they're on the power play, and then Hilderman 2 of his 3 points on the power play as well, because they were able to shoot down low, having a guy that could finish off the tap-in, which Bertuzzi did, and then also the deflection from up top. And just having that kind of guy there can open up a ton of things when you're not just relying on the 3 forwards to contribute offensively on the power play, but truly the whole 5-man unit.
Yeah, and I think something that's a cliche, but it does affect the game, is the idea that a power play can gain you momentum, regardless of whether you score on it. And here's exactly why that can be the case. You look at players like Boudria and Hilderman, they're getting shots through traffic because of the way the power play is structured now. That translates to 5-on-5 play. When you're starting to get effective shots through traffic, when you're starting to get effective shots on net, your next shift, when you get a chance to shoot 5-on-5, you're not really going to hesitate like you might if you really haven't gotten a chance to shoot in the game before that point. It gives you that extra boost and that extra confidence to maybe shoot when you think you don't have a lane. Then all of a sudden you've got a guy hitting the net more often. You've got guys like Hilderman that can take it end-to-end sometimes because of the confidence he's gaining on the power play. And it's going to help you get more points from your blue line. I think that's something the Oilers haven't gotten a ton of yet this year, is goals from blue liners. They're starting to get those now, and that's going to go a long way. You're not looking to guys like Mike McKee to score your goals. You're looking for guys like Mike McKee to block shots, to be heavy on the boards and to pinch well, and to command that defensive zone. He does that. You got to get some goals from some defense and on some cases. I look at those two guys, Boudria and Hilderman, and I see a lot of potential as far as hitting some clutch goals down the stretch. Don't forget about Saprika, too. He's a guy that can play forward if he wants to.
Yeah, and you mentioned it, right? The power play, even if you don't score directly on it, is something that can change the momentum of the game, and you only have to look as far as how many times both it's happened against the Oilers or for the Oilers where it's immediately after a guy comes out of the box, 4 seconds, 7 seconds, 11 seconds, however many you want to say, same group of people out there, and there's a goal scored at even strength, and it's because either it's a defenseman coming out of the box having to play centerman, a defenseman coming out of the box that doesn't know where he's supposed to be, or the fact that you have the 4 guys outside of the man coming out of the box who are just completely gassed from chasing a puck snapped around the perimeter for 2 consecutive minutes, and the fact that now that possession is there, that passing is there, and these guys that are in the box, when I say the box, not the penalty box, the penalty kill box, whether it's, dynamic and they're moving all over the place or even static, it's tiresome if you're out there for 2 minutes. So I think that's a big part of the game that we're going to see hopefully take kind of a life of its own heading in against an Idaho team that is really good in all 3 facets of the game: penalty kill, power play, and even strength.
Yeah, no doubt. And again, this will be the only trip that Idaho takes here to Tulsa, barring a playoff series against these. So, do your homework a little bit. These are just going to be some fun players to get to watch, and the Oilers are going to find a way here this week to put up a fight against the top team in the league right now. You look at A.J. White. A lot of fans know him for sure. But, even Kupski, he's down there with this team right now. Poirier, just as well. And Matt Register, a lot of fans know him from his time in Allen. He's in Idaho now just as well.
Played in Colorado and Tulsa actually as well many, many moons ago.
Yeah, certainly so. And they've got some scorers for sure. So Kawaguchi's going to be somebody that's going to try to get on the board quite a bit as he leads his team in goal scoring along with Domowski. So look for these guys to be big names, number 15 and number 77. You're going to see them a lot, and you're going to see players like Jared Hilderman being, tasked, Mike McKee tasked with those responsibilities for those players, and those are going to be fun individual battles to look at here this week. I see guys like Blake McLaughlin running with the momentum here this week, regardless of the opponent. So keep an eye on him, too. We're going to need some good goaltending out of Ellis, Manella, and, of course, Alexander. As I hear Alexander might have some new gear coming in, maybe some Ducks-themed gear you'll see on him here real soon, hopefully.
Yeah, but still using his WHL stuff as, became eligible by age and had an opportunity to get some pro minutes at a rate that is either similar to or exceeds what he was going to get in juniors. But On top of that, it feeds directly into what I was going to say next. With Daniel Manella, we saw a strong performance from him. He's now won back-to-back games. That was his first start since New Year's Eve, where we saw Manella on Sunday, and really just that one maybe sharp angle soft goal, which we've seen a lot of guys score in that building. Greg Burmaster and Matt Lane are two guys that kind of perfected that when they were here during the COVID year. But I really liked the way he played. Essentially had a .900 save percentage against an Allen team that really likes to pick spots and has one of the better shooting percentages in the league.
Yeah, you take away that initial goal. Manella had a fantastic game. You look at a redirect goal in the slot that's really no goaltender's going to make a save on, and a good backdoor tap that the defense just didn't catch up on. But Manella really just had a one goal against performance in my eyes, as far as maybe that was one that he could have grabbed. So look for performances like that to be not just needed but necessary against an Idaho team this week. It will go a long way to pick up points early in this series against Idaho. I'm telling you what, Friday night's game, if you're going to pick a game to go to, just for what's going to happen on the ice, pick game one here Friday night. You get a win on home ice against the best team in the league to start this 6-game stretch. You grab control of what can be the swing that you need in this season to move forward. So either way, win or loss on Friday, you're going to set a tone for either team, because each team knows they only look one game at a time, but they know they're seeing each other 6 straight games. So be ready for a dogfight.
And to close out I guess you could say the preview of this matchup and continue on the goaltending trend of things, it's 6 games, right? You're thinking of it one game at a time, like you mentioned, 3 here, 3 there, and with that, with Manella, Alexander, and Ellis, you do have 3 goaltenders who are all very different from each other. Ellis, obviously the puck player of the 3, maybe the most athletic of the 3 as well, and then you have Manella, who's probably, I guess you could say, the calmest, best positionally sound when he's on, the best at where he's putting his rebounds or not even giving them up. And then you have Alexander, who has the height and size advantage over everybody, also very good positionally, still trying to find maybe his grip in the pro game, but when he's on, we've seen him on, he's been fantastic. He still has the highest save percentage for any Oilers goaltender this season in a single game.
Yeah, you like to see that. At the end of the day, there's going to be confidence that can be built very quickly for goaltenders in this set of games, for sure. So keep an eye on each individual one as they get their opportunities here this week. And boy, when you talk about 6 straight games against one opponent, you're going to want to ride the hot hand. We'll see if either team can get a hot hand here early.
We certainly will. This weekend at the BOK Center, we got a Friday game that is red out the rink. Please wear red to support the American Heart Association. We'll be handing out some red rally towels at the front door. That is not, I repeat, not a jersey auction game, but is a nonprofit charity game. There will be Pass the Bucket as well. Coming up on Saturday, of course, Pink in the Rink, something that it has been so successful here in Tulsa, across hockey in general, that's back here in Green Country, which is really exciting to see, benefiting Joy in the Cause, who do some amazing work, providing care packages to people with not only cancer but other illnesses as well, but also a really heavy focus on cancer. That is a jersey auction game, and so those proceeds will also go toward Joy in the Cause and helping specifically with their cancer care packages. And then Sunday, Family Fun Day, as always, post-game skate afterward. It should be a ton of fun. There's a few more things coming up later in the month, of course, that we'll keep you updated on, but we'll start out with this weekend because it's so jam-packed. And then, of course, if you follow our releases, if you remember the media, we are doing our community event with Safe Light Auto Glass, as always, out at the Eastern Oklahoma, or Community Food Bank of Eastern Oklahoma, which 97% of all the money raised goes directly to providing food to people in need in Green Country and Eastern Oklahoma in general. In fact, they serve 24 counties, and they distribute 2.7 million pounds of food every month, in which is one of the most efficient food banks, not just in the state of Oklahoma, but in the country, actually. And with that as well, Oklahoma, sadly, 1 out of 4 children goes to bed hungry. It's higher than the national average. So food insecurity, a big problem. And so that's something to keep an eye on. With us, we'll obviously be promoting them throughout later on in the month. And, of course, a huge thank you to Safe Light for getting us involved with that over the last few years, on top, of course, with all the great work they do with the Autism Awareness Night.
Yeah, if you're interested in being a part, of course, of the remainder of the season, and I've gotten hooked, again, just give us a call at the office just as well. We still got, of course, season tickets can be purchased, through our office as well for the remainder of this year and get signed up for next year. Season ticket holders that are listening, of course, if you're up for renewal, we'll be getting in contact with you soon just to check in on you, make sure we get you all set for next year. We've still got some Valentine's Day packages available. Again, we do play on Valentine's Day, so just call our office. You can get 2 tickets and 2 luxury dinners for as low as $89. We've got some other packages for some other pricings just as well. But no more than $149 can get you in a luxury suite with your date on Valentine's Day. So a lot of fun stuff coming up. And, of course, give us a call anytime, 918-632-7825, and we'll help you out.
Absolutely. Stay out of the doghouse Valentine's Day. You won't have to worry about reservations. Once you get everything squared away, we'll handle everything for you. We're not an airline. We're not overbooking. We're not a restaurant. We're not overbooking. You're going to be able to get in, get on, and if you've done it before, you know it's very painless procedure and usually ends up being a ton of fun for you. So if you're interested in that, like we said, just give us a shout. 918-632-7825. Thank you guys so much for tuning in to this episode of the Pipeline Podcast, brought to you by OilFire Whiskey. We'll catch up with you this weekend, Friday, Saturday, Sunday at the BOK Center against the Idaho Steelheads. Until then, from Luke Hamilton, I'm Zack Reynolds. Hope you have a fun, safe, fantastic rest of your week.
This year, treat your Valentine like a VIP. Give the gift of romance with the Tulsa Oilers at the BOK Center on Valentine's Night. Valentine's Night packages include a romantic dinner, drinks, and VIP seats in a luxury suite for the game. Don't fight the traditional restaurant crowds. Be different and celebrate your Valentine's VIP style with the Tulsa Oilers on Valentine's Night. Dinner is at 6 and the puck drops at 7:05. Reserve your date night now at TulsaOilers.com. That's TulsaOilers.com.